Are you an entrepreneur, speaker, and a coach? And you know you need to write your book, but you find yourself procrastinating. And every time you sit down to do it, just the thought of it makes you change your mind. And you know you need to write this book to grow your business and become the expert and authority in your field, but just can't get it done. What if I told you that you can write the book in under 30 days without writing another single word? Hi, I'm Dr. Oliver T. Reid, the writing coach, and I help entrepreneurs, speakers, and coaches write their books fast using my 4-step milk writing system. And what I've done, my friend, is I've created a free training that shows you how to create your book in under 30 days without writing another single word. And all you have to do to get free access is to click the link below. You don't have to overthink it. Wait till tomorrow, contemplate. Click the link below, and I'll send that information right to you. I have a book in me. This is my friend, my brother.
Thank you, Kelly and Oliver.
I'm a multi-award-winning best-selling author.
If you want to start a new business, I suggest you write the book on it.
God woke me up at 2:30 in the morning and I wrote a book.
Some of you got books already. Some of you got novels already.
The lead generator is the book.
You write a book, you leave a legacy to your children.
And I hope you guys listen to these guys so they know what they're talking about.
What's up, everybody? It's the publisher, Mr. Kelly Cole.
It's Dr. Oliver T. Reid, the writing coach.
Welcome to Books-N-Brothas Podcast Live, episode 1. So in this episode, we want to tell you a little bit about who we are, what we do, and how we look to help people, bro. So what you got for them?
Man, I'm hyped because we live, man, and I'm just excited to be able to bring this live. And what we do, man, I think is one of the best kept secrets to help anybody. And I think one of the greatest things in life, and everybody should have, is a book.
Definitely.
So I think having a book, man, you leave your legacy. And I think it's one of the most underrated things, and we do it, man. He does it on the publisher side, bro. You do it, and I do it on the writing side. So I'm excited about it.
For sure, man. So I often tell people, like, my life went to a whole nother level once, I took action. I published my first book. So real quick, give you a little bit of backstory about me. I was born in Chicago in one of the most notorious housing projects. I was born in the Cabrini Green housing projects. And I always tell people that I was a born entrepreneur. Real quick, if you don't know what Cabrini Green is where they filmed Good Times, the movie Hoop Dreams, Candyman, all of that was filmed at Cabrini Green housing projects. But I always tell people, bro, that I was a born entrepreneur. So at 6 years old, me and my sister, we carried her table and chairs to the front of our building, took all of the candy out of the house, and we started a candy store right in front of our building. The crazy thing, bro, we didn't know anything about money, how much stuff costs really, and people would come up to our table and say, well, how much is the candy? We say quarter, nickel, dime, whatever you want to pay for it. We didn't have no prices, we didn't have any of that, but that was the beginning of my entrepreneur journey. But since then, I've had 2 clothing stores, I've had 2 restaurants, I was a barber for 10 years, I used to DJ weddings, video weddings, anniversaries, family reunions. I was a paper boy. I did a bunch of things until I found what it is that I was put on earth to do, which was start a business on the internet. But before I actually started my business on the internet, bro, I used to work 2 jobs. I used to work at Walmart during the day and Blockbuster at night. Most days, 16, 17-hour days. Funny thing about that, bro, is when I was working 2 jobs, 16, 17 hours a day for somebody else building their dream, nobody told me I was working too hard, right? Soon as I switched and I started working for myself, and when you work for yourself, you're on 24 hours. Everybody tells me I work too hard. Listen, bro, we've been here today. We've been recording. This has not felt like work. Has it felt like work to you?
Not at all. Not at all.
This is fun. We're traveling. We're somewhere else. We're in Atlanta right now shooting this. We live in Virginia. We're able to travel. I'm able to pick up. I'm able to go. Last week I was in Houston. Next week I'm going to be in another city. Like, this is not work. When you find your passion, when you find what you're called to do, it's never going to feel like work. So it never feels like work to me. It just feels like I have a lot of things to do, and I'm getting a lot of things done, and I'm able to help a lot of people. But fast forward to my story. So it came a point to where I knew I could no longer do this. I could no longer look into my family's eyes and not be able to provide to them what they needed and what they wanted, bro. So I decided one Sunday night, I was walking, me and my family, we were in Books A Million. I came across this magazine called Millionaire Blueprints. And there was a guy on the cover named Yannick Silver. He was in a drop-top Mercedes-Benz. And the caption read, Web-Made Millionaire. And it was at that moment, I picked up that magazine, I started reading through it. And it was at that moment that I felt like the light shining in, like this is what I'm supposed to do. I immediately knew that I wanted to quit both of my jobs and start a business on the internet. But like most people, I punked out. Definitely stayed for another year, bro. And came home one night very frustrated. And was just at the end of my rope. And I watched the movie Pursuit of Happiness. And if you've never seen the movie Pursuit of Happiness, the whole movie, Will Smith had a goal of just providing a better life for his family. And at one point, they ended up in sleeping in the bathroom. So by the end of this movie, I'm crying. I'm like, God, if I end up sleeping in a bathroom with my family, just like Chris Gardner did on Monday, I'm quitting my jobs and starting my business on the internet. So I go to work on Monday and I immediately get called to the office. Now, bro, it's one thing to quit. It's another thing. It's another thing to get fired. I was not ready to get fired, but I got scared. They called me to the office. They told me they wanted to send me to a shareholders meeting in Arkansas. So I walk into the Arkansas Razorback Stadium, and guess who's walking towards me, bro? Chris Gardner, the guy Will Smith played in Pursuit of Happiness.
Wow.
So you know how I felt. I immediately start thanking God in the middle of this stadium. I started screaming out Chris's name. Nobody around knew who he was but me. He turned around, he took a picture for me. And that was the beginning of my journey, man. So July 15th, I think it was 2008, I quit both of my jobs and started my business on the internet, right? So when I quit my job, I had one product on the internet. It was selling for $25, right? I was selling one a week. So you can imagine how hard it was taking care of a wife and 3 kids with $25 a week. Couldn't pay rent for 7 months. We did almost end up homeless. We did almost end up, sleeping in the bathroom. But thank God for a gracious landlord and the grace of God, because he kept us, man.
Right.
And I turned it around, man. It took actually a year to turn it around. Right around the time when ABC introduced Shark Tank, here's where my life went to another level. I fell in love with the show, started taking notes from the show. And a friend of mine, CF, shout out to CF Jackson, she found out I was taking notes. I asked to borrow my notes. I sent her my notes. She sent them back and she was like, yo, this will make a great book. And you should actually interview the sharks. And I was like, I never even thought about that.
Right.
I emailed all of the sharks on ABC Shark Tank. Barbara Corcoran hit me back and agreed to give me an interview. Me and Barbara hit it off so well that I said, hey, Barbara, will you help me get an interview with Damon John? She was like, of course. So she put me and Damon John, someone that I've idolized since I was a kid when FUBU came out. She put us in a group text and said, hey, Damon, give this guy an interview. He's a great guy. Damon immediately responded. We did the interview. I took both of those interviews, transcribed them, took my notes from the TV show, and that became my first book, which was Conversations with Sharks. It became a #1 bestseller on Amazon. It was my first #1 bestseller. It birthed my publishing company, and that very first week that I launched that, I got my very first speaking engagement. Norfolk State University called me to be on an entrepreneurship panel. Bro. And from then on, I knew my life would never be the same again.
Wow, I got chills. I got chills, man, because that's powerful how you went through that process.
Yeah.
Oh, man. On the other hand, my whole journey started with me speaking, doing a lot of stuff. Grew up in the church, started speaking at a very young age. I was 14, I believe, when I first did my first initial sermon.
Okay.
So I knew I had to get to God, that God had put something in me to kind of say, and started writing when I was in the 6th grade, just doing this stuff. And man, I had ended up finding myself in 6th grade, winning the contest. But then I got into, I believe, 7th grade, and I had this teacher who said, "Hey, you know what? Yeah, you're okay as a writer, but you write too colorful."
Yeah.
So she was like, "You need to take this out, do this." And so I got involved with drama, because back then, I think it was 8th grade, drama wasn't cool, but I liked drama. So I was acting, doing stuff, writing. And we had this oratorical contest, and where you had to record, I believe it was like a 5-minute speech, and you had to say it in front of this panel.
Yeah.
So I was hyped. Inner city projects, we have similar stories. I grew up in Charlotte, where I grew up in the inner city project, single parent, so I kind of grew up in the hood.
Yeah.
And so here was this project kid, I'm sitting here in this whole panel, all white judges, different people there. And bro, I'm there recording or speaking a 5-minute monologue that rhymed.
Wow.
So I'm back there back in the day, and I still remember something. I was like, man, if I can see tomorrow, I wouldn't forget about the things today. I'll focus on the better things and show others the way. I would teach them drugs and violence is not how it's done, but by giving, by sharing, by loving everyone. So everybody like, I would tell them about a man named Dr. Martin Luther King that yelled from every mountaintop, let freedom ring. I still remember that, right? So I'm there, I'm in my zone, man, the judges are crying. They get up and they make the announcement. And I had 3 other kids. One guy fumbled over his speech.
Yeah.
Another lady, another girl, she fumbled over her speech. And they said, the third runner-up. So I'm sitting on my ears like, at least I'm gonna get 3. And they said, such and such and such. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm even moving up to 2.
Yeah.
They said, and the second runner-up, X, Y, and Z. They gave it to the dude that fumbled. So I'm like, I got to win this. Came to the first person, they gave it to another kid, man. And I sat there and I looked at my mom because I knew I'd been robbed. Even the judges started to cry, looked at me because I was this black inner city kid. And I told my mom, I said, listen, I'll never write again. I'm done.
Wow.
And so my mom was upset, man. And for years, I was like, I'm not writing. But then it started to be the 90s. You know what came out in the 90s? Hip hop. So I was like, oh, man on the block writing something. I still started writing, doing my cipher. Yeah. Started writing and still writing. So it kind of changed courses. Fast forward to 1995, man. I had a suicide attempt. And so I was in the church and everything, got to a point where I wanted to end my life. I didn't know about mental health and depression.
Yeah. I
was just like in college, freshman year, I was crying, I didn't go to class, didn't want to get out to bed. I didn't know anything about how today, everything is popular with, African American men and their mental health status. And so I ended up having a mental breakdown Christmas Day, man. And I said to God, if you ever get me out of this, because they started talking in the psychological evaluation program, and they were like, listen, I remember the doctor talking like, we're going to commit him for like 30 days and we're going to do tests, we're going to put him on some meds and some drugs. And I remember on Christmas Day, the love of all these people in my mom's church, they flooded this Charlotte mental health place, bro, and they were out there praying for me.
Right.
So I'm sitting there in evaluation and I don't know where my life going to go. And I had already escaped the projects by being in college.
Yeah.
And so I said, man, if you get me out of this, man, I'm going to write about it. I'm going to tell my story.
Wow.
So I said, man, after that, push on the shoulder, the doctor let me out, said you just have to see a couple of counselors. And I remember that day, bro, going to a TDJ's conference, and I rededicated my life. Right. And I was like, man, I love TJ, so he was preaching and he was writing. I said, man, I can also preach and I can also write. So, man, fast forward, it took me 10 years, bro, to even write my book. And when I wrote my first book, it did nothing. I went to a traditional publishing company, and they were like, they're going to do this for me. They promised me the world, man. And I wrote, after 10 years, I finally got my thoughts together, and it did nothing, man. It was kind of like it did anything. It didn't do anything. I was kind of just stuck. Yeah. And I met a guy, man, and said, hey, you should reach out to, my boy Kelly. And I was like, who this dude, man? He started telling about the dude. We laugh about it now. Yeah. And I'm sitting up here like, this dude big time. Like, I ain't got no money to pay for nobody big time. You know what I mean? Right. This is what's going on. So I remember calling him, he was with your family. And I was like, man, I got this book where you said you'll call me back. He's like, I said, first he answered, or he didn't answer, you responded later on and said, bro, I'm gonna call you back. And I was like, oh, he hit me back. I was hyped walking around the house like he actually hit me back. And when you hit me back, bro, we took my second book, or redone my book, and it went to #1 in that category. It was a bestseller, and that's what started my publishing journey. And since then, I started to write. So anything you'll hear me on the show always talking about, milking the crisis. Yeah. And so what I learned is that I didn't have to throw away all the things, my growing up without a father, my pain, even the good stuff part of my life, bro, I didn't have to throw that away. Yeah. And so I could keep that and start writing. And so what I said to you, and we kind of joke about it now, I said I wanted to become to other people what I needed when I first started writing. Yeah. So now I coach people on how entrepreneurial speakers and coaches, how to become bestsellers, how to write the book, get out of their head, bro. And I'm here and loving it every day. Like you said before, man, it don't feel like work because this is what we do.
What we do, man. Hey, it's the publisher here, Mr. Kelly Cole. Listen, if you are a former professional athlete, if you are a former college athlete or sports coach,
and you're looking to launch your speaking career, let me tell you, you need a book. If you're already out there speaking and you want to attract more high-paid speaking engagements, you need a book. It's not about creating more content to post on social media. It's not about recording a bunch of videos. It's not about doing more podcasts. The number one secret to attracting more high-paid speaking engagements or even launching your speaking career is a book. Hey, I'm the publisher, Mr. Kelly Cole, and I help former athletes and sports coaches create best-selling books in 30 days to launch their speaking career, even if they hate writing and don't know where to start. So for the first time ever, I've created a free case study video that will not only show you how to write a book from scratch in as little as 30 days and become a best-selling author, it will also show you how to attract more high-paid speaking engagements. Now, to check out this free case study video, click the link that says learn more or go to booksforathletes.com. Real quick before you go, do not go if you're not a former athlete or sports coach, because you won't find any value in what I'm about to share. And don't go if your book is already out and already on Amazon. You won't find any value in what I share over there. But if you are a former athlete or sports coach, know that you need a book, or already out there speaking and you want to launch your speaking career, go check out that link now. Writing a book is not as hard as you think. It doesn't even matter if you don't know where to start. My case study video will show you how to start and get it done and onto the bestsellers list. So go now.
I don't feel any pressure like sitting up here right now, you know, in the interviews and the different people we're going to talk to, the successful people. I know this is what I was put on earth to do, man. And it's only a problem when you're going against the grain.
Yeah.
Like, we know when we're doing something we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Like, God put that in all of us. It was never a day that I went to clock in at Walmart where I actually felt good about it, because I knew I was called to more. Like, I knew there was more for me to be doing on the earth.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, at Walmart, man, I would sit there and I would be writing. Like, I would write every single day. I would have these little notepads, and I would just simply write every single day. Right, every single day. And we had a McDonald's in our Walmart, and on my lunch break at McDonald's, I would read my Bible for 30 minutes, and then I would write or listen to some educational or something like that. And sometimes I would even fall asleep in that corner because I was so like hungry, and I would stay up all night. I wasn't getting any rest because I knew I was just called to more, bro. And the most rewarding thing, my very first client, I'll never forget my very first client, when I handed them their book for the first time, and they cried. And I was like, man, this is what I was put on earth to do, to help people dreams come true of becoming a published author. And there's no greater feeling doing what I do, bro. So can you talk about that?
Man, doing what I do, man. We able to work with some of the great people. We work with athletes, bishops, apostles, entrepreneurs, and I just love it because they'll all come and say, hey, especially when they deal with me on the writing coach end. Like, my story, what's different about it? And they'll feel like there's nothing different about it, and then we start working, and I take them through the literary process, and like, bam, spot on. Like, right now, I'm working with a 70-year-old woman who's writing her first book. And she is banging it out because she said, oh man, I always wanted to do it. I didn't know the system. So being able to tell people, sit and share and show you can plug it in. And I always say that secret sauce. That secret sauce that everybody has, and I always say this, McDonald's not worried about Ruth Chris. Ruth Chris is not worried about McDonald's. Each of them have a story, they got a special sauce that attracts their clients. So I love seeing people, like you said, for the first time, they see their book in their hand and that they've written their book, and it's in their voice, and it's in their language that they can kind of expand to the world.
For sure, man. And I related a lot of times to pregnancy. Like, a lot of y'all watching this or listening, however you consuming this content, you're pregnant right now. Like, you're pregnant with your book. You're pregnant with your dreams. You're pregnant with your goals. And it's time to give birth. Like, that thing is kicking. It's keeping you up at night. You up and down. It's like that woman who has a baby in her belly. You can't rest. No matter how you lay, you know it's time to do something different. So I'm challenging you. If it's a book, I'm telling you. I heard this guy say a speaker, a coach, or entrepreneur, or a former athlete without a book is like a business without a cash register. Listen, I guarantee you, you're leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table by not having a book, and you're giving up sleep, you're giving up rest. Because like I said, that thing is kicking in you. You know it's something that you need to do, and I challenge you to do it today. Now, I'm not telling nobody to quit their job, bro.
Right. No,
I'm not telling nobody to jump out of the boat, but use the time that you have while you're in the restroom and you're sitting on the toilet. Listen, work on your book, work on your outline. Listen, I started the outline for my next book, bro. We was sitting, me and my family, we was waiting on to get seated at Longhorns. And I was sitting there, and the Spirit just dropped in my, work on your outline.
Wow.
And guess what? I got the outline for my next book already done. And it just took me about 20, 30 minutes to sit there and create the outline. That's the first step to creating a book, just making an outline, just creating a list of what you want to cover in the book, bro.
Right. One of the things, man, that I like to say, if you don't write now, and I mean that WRITE,
Yep.
then you'll pay later.
Yep.
Because there's certain things, I love what you just said. You caught the power of that moment and stopped. All you got to do, and I say this all the time, if you just start with the sentence, that sentence will start, and then guess what? It'll turn into a paragraph. That paragraph will transform into a page.
Yeah.
That page will transform into a chapter.
Yeah.
And that chapter will transform into a book. So if you wrote a sentence today while you're watching this episode, if you write a sentence right now, you'll have more than when you first started.
Yeah, for sure. And it just starts from that. I mean, you'll be surprised if you just set aside 30 minutes per day just to work on your book. You look up, you've been on road for an hour. You've been on road for an hour and a half. And next thing you know, you do that for 20 days straight. You got a 10,000 word book done. Just like that. And like some people, like, bro, we tell them, like, the hard way is sitting at your computer and just typing, or pulling out a notepad and just writing. Listen, turn on a camera, turn on your phone, and simply just record yourself speaking out your book, telling those stories. Transcribe it. Go to a site called rev.com. They'll transcribe it. That turns your audio or your video into text. They'll give you a document. Listen, bro, in 24 to 48 hours, and your book will be done.
Done.
How often do we use that with our clients?
Every day. And it happens because what you do today, you always say this, man, I love what you say, what you wait for tomorrow never comes.
Tomorrow never comes.
And so I think about this, and I'll put it for those who are faith-based, those who believe in the Creator.
Yeah.
Even he had a book. If he had a book,
whoa, rewind. Bring that back. You never said that before. Come on, get him one more time.
God himself,
come on,
inspired men to write a book. And if he thought it was important, what about your story?
Wow, bro.
What about your life? What about your success?
Wow.
What about?
Wow, you hit them. We gotta stay right here for a minute. You have never shared that, and I've never even thought about it from that perspective, because we talked about people who follow, John Maxwell, E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher, and they're in his speaker camps. John Maxwell, what I say, he has over 90-something books. And you're talking about you following him, you're a certified speaker, and you don't have a book. And you're a believer, and you're not writing, you're not documenting your story. Yep. You're not sharing your story. You're not leaving nothing behind for your legacy. How are they going to know that you were here?
If you don't write that, God himself took the time. And if we really want to be special about it, there was 400 years between the Old and New Testament.
Break it down, bro.
So if he decided he wanted to write a book and it was important, because guess what? He needed us to come back. We would have nothing to read. Think about, some of you have a legacy about your aunt's cooking, or your family gathering, or some kind of heritage in your family that your great-great-grandchildren won't even know, right? Because you didn't write the book to them.
Man, bro, that's one of my biggest regrets, is that I didn't spend more time with my grandfathers, learning their stories, learning their journey, learning, what things do they wish they would have did different in their lives, and getting those jewelry and just sitting at their feet and getting that wisdom.
Yes.
And because they didn't write a book, all I know is the stories that people can tell me. Yeah. And all I have the memories of, Granddaddy, buy me this. Yeah. Granddaddy, buy me that. Yeah. Granddaddy, take me to Chuck E. Cheese. Granddaddy. Yeah. And I didn't get time to sit at his feet and just get the wisdom. Yeah. Now, there was one time, and I don't even know how this happened. I guess he just felt like sharing. There was one time my granddaddy took me on the balcony of the building that he owned. And he just pointed. He was like, you see that one? You see that one? You see that one? And I was like, yeah, Granddad. He's like, I could have bought all of those. And I was like, well, why didn't you? He was like, your grandmama told me I was crazy and told me, don't do it. And he would have been a multi-millionaire had he bought all of those buildings that he pointed out. And it was something, and here's the crazy thing,
Wow,
he had
bro.
the money to do it.
Had the money to do
He
it.
had the money to do it. But just imagine if he wrote that, or if he put it in something that we can pass down from generation to generation. You best believe that my lineage and the ones that's coming after me,
Yes,
they're
sir.
going to have the legacy. They're going to have the blueprint. If they picked up one of my books, I guarantee that their life is going to be better from just reading one of the books that I've written.
Yeah, and one of the things that we do, we practice what we preach, and I've written over 40, been a part of 40 different projects.
Yeah.
And my brother wouldn't even tell you, he had to tell me stop. And I started to really from a standpoint like this, because one of the biggest things is pouring into other people. And you said something powerful in that story, and I want to say that. You said that his grandfather had the money.
Had the money.
Some of you out here have some money and resources,
Woo.
because he always hears, he'll hit you with something later, but he always say, hey, people will go out and they'll buy the Gucci's, they'll buy the Prada, they'll buy whatever. And you won't take the money to buy, put it and invest in your book. Talk about that, bro.
People buy what they want and beg for what they need. Period. People buy what they want. And me and my bro, we was talking at a conference we did, and I was like, bro, I don't feel bad about charging a price that is maybe more expensive, or a price that, you know what I'm saying, maybe push people out of their comfort zone. Here's why. Because they have no problem going to Gucci, Louis, Prada, buying J's, doing all of those things that's not going to produce anything for them. You take that same amount of money, you invest it in a book, it's going to make you passive income from time to time to come. It's going to be something that you can pass down to your legacy. It's going to be something that you can, it's something that's going to keep on producing for you. It becomes an asset. When you buy shoes, Louis belts, and all that stuff, those are liabilities.
Yes.
If you want to buy liabilities, because I'm not against buying liabilities, but you should buy assets to pay for your liabilities, bro.
Say that
Okay,
again.
listen, you should buy assets to pay for your liabilities. You should never, listen, I don't buy J's, but if you watch these episodes, I'm going to have on some Chris J's. I'm going to have on some nice things, but guess what? I don't buy them. I use other people's money to buy different liabilities and the things that I enjoy. I invest my money in assets. Last story I'm going to say, bro, and I'm going to let you wrap it up.
Yeah.
I told y'all about how my life changed and went to another level when I wrote that book. Listen, that book birthed my publishing company. It started with a book. Listen, that property, that house that I told you we couldn't pay rent for 7 months. Listen, not only did I buy that house, I bought the landlord's house, I bought the lot next to it and the lot behind it. And guess what it started with? It started with a book, and I'm going to leave a legacy. All because I took the unction and I listened and I wrote the book.
Man, we always talk about it. A book, people will never throw away.
Never.
So my biggest thing about it is, I'm going to go back to that the book was so important that even God himself wrote a book.
Yes.
But what is the #1 bestseller in the world?
The Bible.
The Bible. It's been burned, it's been banned, and it's been transcribed in so many different languages, it still exists. What happens when you get inspired and you drop your book, you write your book, that book keeps giving? I have people that inbox me that I work with them as a coach because of my first book.
Yeah.
And I never even knew that.
Yeah.
There's people that invite me back from a gig that I did off my first book. They
Yeah.
invite me to come and speak. They invite me to come and do whatever because I wrote the book. The
Yeah.
book never gets old. It's now passed down. So my biggest thing about this, I will share this, my last story, is that you don't have to finish to be finished.
Come on.
I remember one time I was like, I have to complete this whole book of my life.
Right.
Some of you out there like, I have to finish this whole book of my life. Let's go back to the good book. It's chapters.
Come on.
It's verses.
Yeah.
It's scripture. Some books in the Bible are longer than others. Some are shorter than others.
Yeah.
Don't shoot yourself in the foot by talking yourself out of it right now before you talk yourself out of it, and start to begin your legacy and your process. If you do it, you'll never be the same.
Listen, as y'all can see, this is going to be a powerful season on Books-N-Brothas Podcast Live. Make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel, Books-N-Brothas, Books-N-Brothas, and make sure you are following us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. And listen, if you want to book us to speak, if you want help getting your book done, just shoot us an email, booksnbrothers@gmail.com. And listen, we have writing workshops. We have the Book It Masterclass. Make sure you check out the bookitmasterclass.com. See when our next masterclass, and we would love to help you get your book done.
That's it for me, bro.
That's it. All right. Make sure y'all stay tuned. Listen, we have an amazing season of Books-N-Brothas Lives coming up. Make sure you're tuning in every single week. We got something very special for you. Some very special Yes, some millionaires, some trillionaires, some big businesses. And as my cameraman is looking at me funny, yes, we're all trillionaires. I'm speaking it over somebody's life.
Amen. And we're going to end with our famous quote.
Hey, you don't have to get it right.
Just got to get it going.
Peace.
This morning is a blessing. What a wonderful time it is to be alive.
I am happy, healthy, wealthy, whole. I am happy, healthy, wealthy, whole. I am happy, healthy, wealthy, whole. I am happy, healthy, wealthy, whole.
Happy, healthy, wealthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, wealthy, and whole.
I am happy, healthy, wealthy, whole. I am happy, healthy, wealthy, whole. I am happy, healthy, wealthy, whole. I am happy, healthy, wealthy,